In the 1870s, the bicycle suddenly gets taller, much taller. Tall enough that riders could see over crowds, and tall enough that falling off meant a trip to the freaking doctor. And yet, people wanted them. They wanted the speed, the thrill, the bragging rights. This wasn't just a bicycle, it was a symbol of daring, of athleticism, of status. This is the high wheeler. What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Lost Gears podcast. I'm your host, Tyler, and today we are talking about one of the most iconic and most terrifying machines in history. It's probably, when somebody says an old bicycle, this is probably what you think of. At least it was for me for a very long time. Oh, 1800s, 1900s bicycle. This image is what I would think of. But we of course, are talking about the Penny-farthing today, the ordinary bicycle, the high wheeler. Whatever you call it, this was the first moment the bicycle became a true sport. And honestly, kind of an extreme sport. Like, we're Red Bull. Let's go. These things were fast. They were elegant. They were dangerous as hell, honestly. But they're also the final stepping stone toward the modern bicycle. We still got one more to talk about, but this is one of the last big evolutionary leaps before the chain drive and the safety bikes changed the world. So let's climb way up high and dive into this one. All right, so obviously the first question has to be, why was the front wheel enormous? Well, simple. The bigger the wheel equals more distance per pedal rotation. Yeah, Bill Nye got me on that one, you know what I mean? Because the pedals are attached directly to the front hub, you can't change gears. There's no chain, no sprocket, no gear ratio choices at all. So if you wanted to go faster, well, you just make the wheel bigger, right? This was the 1870s version of just make the engine bigger. It's fine. Most high wheelers ran wheels between 48 and 60 inches in diameter. Some went up to 70 plus inches for the taller riders or the speed junkies. I say taller riders, but anybody would be hopping on these things, and it's crazy. I've never ridden a Penny-farthing. Part of me wants to, but part of me is extremely injury prone. One of those injuries could come later in our shop story segment, potentially, as one of my major injuries did happen at the shop, leading to a sign to be put up, of course. One of those signs where you're like, I feel like that sign shouldn't have to be said. Well, I am unfortunately the reason why a sign was had to be put up like that. So anyway, I was like 17. Okay. Anyway, all right. I'm going off on a tangent already, and we're just getting started. Anyway. Remember here, riders had to sit directly above the axle on this thing. So it kind of meant like you're way up in the air. I mean, the front wheel's huge. You're sitting on top of the thing. So you're way up in the air. Your center of gravity is forward on the bicycle. So if the wheel hits something, you are instantly ejected forward like a human catapult. They called this a header. First off, the fact that they had to come up with a name to call it. Oh yeah, man, he just headered. You know what I mean? Like, what? We call it nowadays probably a bad day, but they called it a header. It was a common thing. But despite all of that, these bikes were beloved. Why? Well, because they were fast, really fast. 16 miles an hour was normal. Now, I'm not going to tell you, they didn't have their radar guns out, you know what I mean? They were figuring this all out. I'm going to trust them on their math, probably because it's way better than any math I could do nowadays. Anyway, sorry. But they claim that 20 plus miles an hour was possible. And for the 19th century, that was pretty quick on a bicycle. That was pretty quick. That was lightning back then. This now is kind of where everything changes. The high-wheeler creates the first generation of dedicated cyclists, actually. Like, not casual riders, not inventors. We're talking athletes. Riders trained, they raced, they built clubs. In England and the U.S., roads were filled with young men on giant wheels wearing caps, sashes, and riding uniforms. Cycling suddenly had competitions, jerseys, trophies, national champions, training regiments. And let me tell you, racing was absolutely brutal. Go figure, right? Tracks were often dirt or cinder, if you will. Races lasted miles. Crashes were extremely common and usually spectacular. Probably those headers we were just talking about. One British racer famously said, and this is normally where I'd probably try to do an accent. I'm horrible, so I'm not even gonna try. But sorry, I just reread it again. It's the fact that this happens so often. One British racer famously said, "You never forget your first header, nor your second, nor the fact that you will certainly have a third." Like, they planned on flying off the front of these things. Again, 60, 70 inches in the air. Unreal. Yet riders continued to come back. Why? Because, again, this was the first machine that made humans feel superhumanly fast for the time, and the world was starting to take notice. All right, typical tangent, whatever you want to call it here for me, just real quick. This thing was definitely kind of like a rich man's machine, if you will. High-wheelers were not cheap, as you can imagine. A good model cost months of wages for the average worker, which meant riders were usually wealthy young men, college students, businessmen, aristocrats, early professionals. So being a high-wheeler rider was basically the Victorian equivalent of, oh, I'm owning a Tesla, or being a road cyclist with that 12 grand S-Works, or rolling up to a group ride in full Rafa, you know what I mean? Rafa, excuse me. It was a status symbol. People stared, kids pointed, women apparently found it impressive, of course. But there were actually letters from back in the day joking about this. I can't imagine how those letters went. I did not find them. I did not read them. I don't care. But apparently it was a big deal. So you can try it in 2026. Go try to ride a penny-farthing down the street and see if women find it impressive. Anyway, high-wheelers weren't just transportation. They were flexing, if you will. So let's talk about the danger here, because literally anything could be a catastrophic accident. If the front wheel hit a rock, a rut, a pothole, and imagine, all of that was probably everywhere still back then. The wheel stopped dead in its tracks. Imagine, just like a little rock. It's like a pallet jack trying to roll over a zip tie. Good luck. You're going to be there all frickin' day. But the wheel stopped, and the rider wouldn't. So they would fly forward, just a header, just unbelievable. Some riders developed a technique called the slide back. So leaning way back on hills to keep the weight off the front, which actually you see in a lot of other riding. If you're riding a mountain bike downhill or even a road bike downhill, there's a giant hill actually not far from me, right behind this giant ski jump. And you see riders all the time putting their weight back on that hill. So the first slide back, if you will, was kind of back then. But it didn't always work, as you can imagine. Getting on these things kind of looked like a gymnastics move. You had to run, jump onto this little tiny peg, swing your leg up onto the saddle, and kind of just pray at that point, hope for the best. Whether you were religious or not, you were probably praying. Getting off required just as much timing. So again, I've never ridden a Penny-farthing. Now, I have ridden a tall bike, if you will, which was just 2 mountain bike frames welded together, with a lot of sprockets and chains. One of my buddies made it that I worked with in the bicycle industry. Maybe he'll come on, maybe he won't, I don't know. But him and his friend, who also worked at the same shop, actually, those guys made that thing, and it was absolutely insane. If I ever get a Facebook page going or whatever, maybe I'll put a picture of it up there, because I feel like I have one somewhere. But the amount of chain rings and the length of chain that was on this thing to make it work was insane. And let me tell you, getting on it, I climbed on the railing outside of our store to get on the thing and ride it around the parking lot. Once you got up there, it was cool for like 15, 20 seconds, like really cool. Like, all right, this is pretty cool. And the fact that they made it was awesome. But then the fact that I was like, kept thinking in my brain, like, man, this is just 2 frames welded together, hoping and praying that they're going to hold. And I'm really high up here. And again, me being injury prone, I'm like, man, if I fall off this thing, I'm breaking everything, you know? So I don't know. I did not fall off, luckily for me, but it was fun. And I'm, again, why I debate whether or not I should get on a Penny-farthing or not. Anyway, let's get back into it here, because I'm going off on a tangent again. But anyway, so going downhill on these things, riders would sometimes put their legs on the handlebars so the pedals wouldn't bash their shins as the wheels spun out of control. Because again, these pedals are fixed. So as fast as that wheel's going, those pedals are flying too. It's truly amazing anyone actually like survived the 1870s, but the thrill continued to keep them hooked. By the late 1880s, the high wheeler is kind of at its peak. Fast, popular, symbolic, athletic. So what killed it? Well, one simple invention. And we won't get too heavy into it because, as you guessed it, that's the next episode. But it was the safety bicycle. Came out with chain drive, 2 equal-sized wheels. First time we're seeing pneumatic tires on the bicycle. Stability, speed, accessibility. Suddenly you didn't need long legs or courage or expensive taste to ride a bike. Everyone could do it. As soon as the safety bicycle proved itself, the Penny-farthing era ended almost overnight, unfortunately. So if anybody's selling one still, I would take one just to have around, you know what I mean? But here's the thing. The high wheeler is the first bicycle that truly looked like freedom, if you will. It created the first cycling clubs, the first races, the first fan culture, if you will. The first era where riding wasn't just transportation. It was kind of identity. It set the stage for everything that comes next. That was episode 3 of season 0, if you will. Again, that roots season, we're going to call it, about the Penny-farthing. You know, next up, our next episode, is going to be about the safety bicycle, truly that next step of innovation, and more so, very similar to the bicycles that we still see today. I appreciate you all for being here with me on this journey. We are just getting started, truly. We have a lot yet to talk about, but this has been Tyler, and we will see you still for one more episode in season 0 of the Lost Gears podcast.